Good morning. Am I audible and the PPT is visible? Just anyone can reply. Okay, fine. Thank you very much. Now, in the yesterday's class, we have seen this architecture, or how JSP works, how when the client sends a request and how it is processed, and the JSP is converted into Java servlet, and the output of the response is sent back to the as a response is sent back to the client. Now we will move further with this. And the next part, now we will talk about the variables and several objects that can be used in JSP or Java server pages. Now, variables in JSP are declared the same way as it is declared in Java. That is, for example, to declare a variable, you need to have a name for a variable and then its data type. So since it is a statically typed language, so we need to, Java is statically typed. So we need to assign the data type of the variable. Then the next thing is the obvious case that any variable has to be declared before its use. So this is the same as any other programming language. Now then, usually the variables, usually I'm saying, it is not the hard and fast rule. Usually the variables are declared in the declaration tag. Now this declaration tag, we have talked about it in the last class. That is, it opens up with angle bracket percentage and the exclamation mark. Now this is not the hard and fast rule that the variables has to be declared in the declaration tag itself. Variables can be declared anywhere, even in scriptlets you can declare variables, but these variables have to be declared before its use. Now let us see an example here with respect to what we call declaring variables. Now this is the HTML part, HTML tag, head, closing of head, body, and H tag. Now this tag, what we have used, angle bracket, which you can see in the gray part, is nothing but angle bracket percentage, hyphen and hyphen. This is the comment. This is the comment. This is how a comment is written in JSP. Now this part is your declaration tag. So you can see that we have defined three different variables. That is A, B, which is of the type int, as well as we are trying to assign some values also. And there is a variable name which we have defined as strings. Now remember that all the data types will be are same what we have in Java. So actually JSP is not as servlets is nothing but we try to write everything in Java. The same way even in JSP, every statement is written which follows, every statement is written in Java. So now here you can see three variables which have been declared. Now since once these variables are declared, in the later program, though we don't have anything here, we're just closing the body tag and HTML tag. This is some sample program, but after declaring these variables, they can be used anywhere in the program after the declaration. Now, what we will try to see the other aspects of JSP. Now, as Java has methods, even JSP has methods. Or most what do you call? We can define, though we don't call it as functions, but we use the term as methods in Java. Methods can be declared with a class or without a class, it doesn't matter. But methods can be defined in the same way as it is defined with Java. For example, method should have a name. It should have a list of arguments or parameters, if at all it has, or it can also have a null parameter or void parameter. You can don't pass it. You can have a function which does not contain any parameters. The function can have a return type. If the return type is void, the function is not returning anything. If the return type is of some data type, then obviously a return statement has to be there within the method, and that type of value has to be returned. Then the next thing is, once we are saying that we can define methods in JavaScript using the same way as Java, methods we can define in JSP using the same way as it is defined in Java. But where do we define these methods? We have to obviously define these methods within the JSP tags. That is, you can use scriptlet tags to define the method. But remember, once a method is defined, it has to be there in the same file, same JSP page. And it has to be defined before its use. Now, once the method is defined, we can use the expression tag, JSP expression tag. If you remember in the last class, we have seen 5 types of JSP tags. One of them was the, expression tag. And this expression tag, what do we say? It uses angle brackets, percentage, and equal to symbol or equal to sign. So where were we? Let us try to see the sample JSP program by defining a method as well as calling that method. Now here you can observe that the rest of the thing, from the top, we have is the HTML tags followed by a comment tag, and then this is the declaration. We have defined the method within the declaration itself. You can also, there is no hard rule that you have to use the declaration tag itself. Without this exclamation mark, if you use just simply use angle bracket and percentage and close with angle bracket percentage, this one will be a scriptlet tag. So it doesn't matter whether you define it in scriptlet tag or you define in the definition tag. But the thing is, a method or a variable has to be defined before its use. Now here we are defining a method sum. It is our own method, user defined method, what we call. It takes in 2 parameters, that is A and B, both of the type int. This method returns the int as the type of the value which is returned. Now in this function, what we are doing is simply we are trying to take values of A and B and apply the summation, apply the addition operator, and then store the value in C. This is a local variable. CO in this case is a local variable. Now remember that here the method is defined. C is within the method, so this becomes the local member or local variable. Now this local variable C we will not be able to access outside this method. That is, we cannot use C somewhere over here once we close it, because this is a local variable. The result of C is returned as an integer. So what now happens is this method is created. Then we need to call this method. So what we are doing is h2 is a HTML tag. Sum of 2 numbers is also HTML part. This is a text HTML. Then here we are using the expression tag. So you can find angle bracket percentage equal to, this is the expression tag, and you need to give a space here. If you don't give up a space, doesn't matter, but it is much better to give a space so that it is easily readable. So now what happens is, this is a sum here. The sum is a method declared. We are trying to pass 10 and 20. So the control or the JSP compiler will call or will try to find the sum as the method. So we already have declared some method. 10 and 20 will be passed as values for A and B, which is the sum is C. Sum is 30, which is stored in variable C. The variable C is returned. That is, the value of C is returned. So at this place, at the place of sum, what you get is the value 30. And this value 30, since we are using equal to, directly will be the result of this script tag or this expression tag. So we will see the output, how it is. You can see this is the same program, what we have now. The demo defining, the title JSP method is coming from the title tag here. And then demo defining method is coming from the h1 tag, what we have written in the HTML. The comment will be ignored. This part is compiled and kept it for use. That is a method. There is no output for this part. It's only a method which is defined in the declaration tag. Then we have h2 tag. So this part is in h2. Sum of two numbers or colon will be printed as it is. Sum of two numbers and colon will be printed as it is, displayed as it is. Then this expression tag, it will call sum 10 and 20, that is 30. So result 30 is coming here. Since this is an expression tag, the entire part from angle brackets to the closing of the angle brackets will output the result as 30. So that is why we have 30 defined here. So this is how we can define methods and call the methods. Now for calling the methods, that is angle bracket percentage equal to, it is not only used for calling the methods. We can use to call any variable. We can use this expression tag to display the value in any method, any variable. Now the other thing is, the methods is not a hard rule that it has to be called using the expression tag itself. We can call any methods as we call in Java. So this was just an example to let you know that how methods are defined and methods are called. Moving on to the other aspects of JSP, what we have is the control statements and loops. Now these control statements, that is if statement, if else statement, switch statement, else if statement is also there, while loop, do while loop, for loop. All these loops and conditional statements, or what we call them control statements, all these statements work the same way as it is done in Java. So we don't have to go through Java again. But you need to know, or you need to keep in mind that if statement, if else, any control statement, even switch statement works here. So all, because since JSP is nothing but it is Java. It is Java part, but this programs run on web server. So whatever can be used in Java, it can be used here in JSP. It is not that only these control structures and loops. Everything which is used in Java can be used here. Now let us look at the a sample program. So I'm not going to go into detail of if statement, that is if condition, then what? Statement 1, if condition, statement 1, else statement 2. So I'm not going to explain that. If condition is false, else will be executed. If condition is true, if statement will be executed. You all know all these parts. I'm just brushing up because sometimes they have asked the question, explain JSP control statements, or explain JSP iterative statements, or explain JSP iterative loops, or explain JSP this repetitive statements. So they have sometimes asked this question. So you have to write about if statement, if else statement, switch, do while, as well as for loop. Now let us move further and let us try to look at how these a sample program to know how the if condition works. Now this in Java, if statement was very convenient to write, is it not? But here, is this the if statement same as Java? Can anybody reply? Is this if statement, what you see here on the screen which is presented, is it looking similar to Java or same as Java? This looks very confusing, this statement. But this statement is same as what we have in Java. Now, how do we say that it is same as what we have in Java? Now, here, the very first part we have is the declaration. Uh, 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 hmm, let us use the highlighted. Now this statement, what you see over here in the what is that, the JSP page, this is same as what do we call Java. Here we are, where is the high okay, okay. This is your declaration, int. This has got nothing to do with your control statements. Just we have a variable which is of the type integer, we have declared it, and we are using or we are assigning the value 10. Now, these, what do you call, opening of angle bracket percentage, closing of closing tag, that is percentage angle bracket. You see these multiple times, several places. Now, this is because the if condition what you are trying to write, or if statement what you will be writing, has to be there within the scriptlet tags or JavaScript tags. Because if it is there without the scriptlet tags or JavaScript tags, it just becomes a simple text which HTML will display. But we need to have the functionality here of if statement. So what we are doing is we are opening the tag, JSP tag, and we are having if in the bracket we have the condition I less than 0, and opening the brackets for the if block. What are we supposed to say if I less than 0? That means it's a negative number. So what we are doing is if statement, if this is true, this condition is true, we want to display number is negative. So to display number is negative, we can use out.println also. It doesn't matter. But we, instead of using out.println, we can also use the, take the help of the HTML tags. So what we are saying here is if this is true, we need to display number is negative. So in HTML, we are saying H2, header tag we are using, number is negative we are saying. But should this be written within the percentage angle bracket? No. If this is written inside this, it becomes a Java statement and we will have errors. But the Java if condition has to be there within, because it's a Java statement, has to be there within the script JSP tag. So we will close the script tag here and then write the HTML part. That is what we need the output, how the output should be. That is the number is negative. Then since we have opened this bracket, the curly bracket, we have to close this curly bracket. So we can directly close it after the H2 tag, after ending the H2 tag, because curly bracket is part of the JavaScript. So sorry, it's not Java, it's part of the what is a JSP. So we will again open the brackets, open the JavaScript, open the JSP tag, and then we will close the curly bracket. And then we will write an if else statement, that is I greater than 0, we need to display it's a positive number. So we will open the curly brackets and then we will close the percentage angle brackets, that is closing the JSP tag. And then the output of this condition, that is if I greater than 0 is number is positive. So we will have the HTML statement here. Then since this bracket has to be closed, curly bracket has to be closed, we will again open the JSP tag, close the curly bracket. We will have a if else condition, if I equal to 0, that is if this is true, we will say that the number is 0. We will open the curly brackets and then close the JSP tag and display the HTML part. Now this is the last curly bracket which was opened, so this has to be closed. So we will again, because this is a part of the Java, so we have to again open JSP tag, close the the curly brackets and close the tag, and rest is the HTML body. Now let us see the output of this program. Here is the output. The output is number is negative. Now we will start. We have assigned 10. So what is happening is the JavaScript, this if I is less than 0. No, this is false. If this is false, this part will not execute. It goes to the if else part. If else I 10 is greater than 0. Then it is this condition is true. It executes number is positive. After that, this gets evaluated. Else if I 10 is equal to 0, it's not equal to 0, so this will not be displayed, and we come to the end. Now suppose if int I, if this would have been some other number, let's say minus 5. If it was minus 5, this condition would have been true. I minus 5 is less than 0. This condition would have been true. So this angle bracket till here has to be executed. What is within this angle bracket? The number is negative in H2 tag is the part or the statement within these two angle brackets. These two curly brackets. So this will be would have been executed. That is number is negative. It would have been displayed here, and then the rest of the statements will work as it is. Now, in the same way, let us try to look at the for statement. This for statement also, it looks a little confusing here because we are using in the JSP tag, but this is the same for statement what we have it in the in Java. It's exactly, absolutely the same. In this one, let us look at how the flow of this code. Now here is the JSP tag starting for int I equal to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. What is the purpose of this for loop? The purpose of this for loop is to print 10 numbers starting from 0 till 9, each time incrementing by 1. So this for loop, we will have a bracket opening of the for loop here, that is the curly bracket, and then we will try to close the JSP tag. This count is a simple text that will be displayed as it is. We again opening the JSP tag, but this is a scripting, JSP expressions tag, because it has a equal to sign. What are we displaying? The value of I. So each time the for loop runs, first time it starts with 0, 0. So I value will be 0. So this entire thing, what happens is count 0 will be displayed. Then what we have is since this bracket was open, we don't have any other statements for the for loop. We need to close this bracket. So since the bracket forms a part of your JSP, we will need to open JSP tag, and within JSP tag we need to close the curly brackets as well as close the JSP tag. So what happens next time? This loop is closed here. So the control again goes back. Second time I will be incremented. I will be, instead of 0, it will be I plus plus, that is I will be 1. This condition is false, so it will continue. This condition is true, that is I 1 is less than 10. It is true, so loop will continue. I value will be 1. So next time count of colon 1 will be displayed. So this loop will continue again till this condition becomes false. If the last thing will be I will be 9. 9 less than 10 is true. So count colon I will be displayed. That is count colon 9. And then in the next iteration, it will be 9 plus 9 plus plus, that will be 10. 10 less than 10 is false. So this loop will not be executed. So the last one, thing what we will have is the count colon, what is that? 9, and then the for loop terminates. Now let us look at the output of this program. Now you can see that once this executes, you will have count 0, count 1 till count 9 displayed. Now why do you think count 0 and then count 1 is getting displayed on the next line? It should have been displayed on the same line. We are not using anything known as println or something print on the next line. Why do you think what do you call it is getting printed on the next line? We are having the BR tag. Someone replied very well. That's a thing that we are having a BR tag here. So once we have the BR tag, it is on the output is giving us a break. So this is how a basic for loop will be executing. So this was the basic structures, or what we have seen is the Java's what is that? What do you call variables? How to declare variables, how to define methods, and how to use methods. And then we have also seen how to what are control structures and loops or iterative statements, and we have seen how to use the if statement as well as how to use one of the repetition controls, that is for loop. Now these are the basics of JSP, which is nothing but most of the Java part, which you people already know. What we have seen is how to use this Java statement in JSP. Now the most important things, or the other important things in the JSP is the JSP's implicit objects. There are three implicit objects in JSP. Now implicit, obviously the term itself, the word itself says that these are implicit, means these are object already there. Automatically it is present in the JSP, now Java server pages. We have one thing called as the request, the other one response, and the third one is the session. Just remember that these corresponds to, that is your request implicit object in JSP, corresponds to HTTP servlet request. If you remember, we have seen this in do-get method. When we define a servlet, we give a public class and my servlet or whatever name, and then we say that it extends its HTTP servlet. And then we define a do-get method. In do-get method, we will be having two parameters or the arguments. The arguments that is implicitly passed. One is the request, the other one is the response. The request is coming from HTTP servlet request, if you remember. And the next one is HTTP servlet response. So, and we also have seen HTTP session. HTTP session. So here you will not be having something known as HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response classes or interfaces, or HTTP sessions interfaces, so that you can create these objects. You will not be having these classes here. Instead of that, JSP by itself provides a implicit object. So there in servlet, we have created something known as HTTP servlet request, and request as the object, argument, parameter. But here we will not be using HTTP servlet request. We already have implicit objects already defined in JSP. Those are nothing but request, which correspond to HTTP servlet request, response, which corresponds to HTTP servlet response, and session, which corresponds to HTTP session. The JavaScript request object is again used to parse the query string. That is whatever values. For example, we had used the method as request.getParameter, if you remember, in servlets. The same way to parse the query string here, we can use getParameter method. These are same. This request object is same as what we have used or handled, or the methods what we have used in servlets. That is getParameter method. So if you see, this is the example, this is the URL through which this is the URLs. Assume that it is used in what you call the form action tag. And once user has entered his student name and roll number and submitted, this is the query, or this is the URL string. Now here, after exclamation mark will be your query. This is known as query string. This query string get parameter. If we use get parameter and within this brackets, that is, if we pass s name as a string here, the get parameter method will return as the value, that is ABC in this case. So if we have the statement string str name equal to request dot get parameter, this request is the implicit object. We are not defining it. Just if directly if we use it, it will work. It's an implicitly built-in object, request dot get parameter and s name in double quotes. It will return us ABC as the value. So str underscore name will contain ABC as the value here. So now the next thing is what you call the same way. There is another query, role. So if we use request.get parameter and role, we will be getting the value as 100, and which is stored in str underscore role. The next thing we will see is a sample program. So this is how, remember that this part, if you remember your Java servlet program, this part we had written inside the do get method. But here in this JSP program, there is no need to define do get method. Directly we can use JSP script tags, and within the script tags we can use request dot. So this request will not give you error because you have not declared it. This request is an implicit. JSP already knows that what this request object is. So request.get parameter and request.get parameter with sname and role. If you use it, the values will be stored in these two variables. Then we can use student name, angle bracket percentage, expression. So str underscore name means whatever is stored in the name, whatever value is stored in the str name variable will be displayed here, as well as the roll number will be displayed here. So if we see the what do you call, when we execute this query string, or when we can when we execute that query string with this JSP, you can find that this is the result we get. Now next we had the request object in JSP. We have seen request object in JSP. We also had something known as response object. Now response object is basically, you know that response object is to give the output back to the web browser or the client or the user which is requesting us. So we can use out.println, or we can also use out. What do you call, the JSP expression tag to give the display. Now the next what we have, where is it? Just a minute. Next thing what we have is JSP cookies. As we had cookies in what do you call servlets, the same way we have cookies in JSP. We have already covered the basics of cookies. That is, cookie is small piece of information that is stored in what do you call web browser. This or web client. This cookie is created, or this information is created by the JSP program. As we have created a cookie using the what do you call cookie class in servlets, the same way in JSP also we can create a cookie using the cookie class inside the JSP itself. And then we had used this add cookie. So now we will see the if you remember, we use the add cookie method to add the cookies to the client's web browser or as part of the response. So if you look at this program here, this statement that is cookie, that is name and value, this is the same statement what we have seen from the servlet class. and cookie is the class we are using cook, new cookie value name we are creating, and we are using add cookie. Now on which object are we using add cookie? We are using add cookie object on response object. This response object is again an implicit object like request, which we have seen. The same way response object is a is also an implicit object. We are not creating this. It is present in JSP. So this implicit object, we simply try to use the response dot add cookie, and we can add this cookie over here. So this is the way you can handle cookies. The next thing is as we have servlet sessions, HTTP sessions there. The same way, even JSP, we have sessions. This is the object we have already talked about, that the session object is a built-in implicit objects in JSP. Sessions, we have already talked that they are HTTP is stateless protocol. So since the HTTP is stateless protocol, we need to maintain sessions. That is, we need to maintain what happened in the previous request. So we can do that using the attributes. Now, obviously, like JSP, like servlets, where we use get attribute and set attribute. The same way, even in JSP tags, we can use get attributes and set attributes with all the session methods. So this is a sample program for sessions. Now you can see we had already heard about this get ID method, which is part of HTTP sessions class. Now here session we are not defining. It is an implicit object. It is present in Java JSP. So get ID method, get creation time is new. All these things can be stored in the variables. And these methods get ID, get creation time is new can be applied on the session object. And then here we are printing the values or results. In the next slide you find is the output. This session ID is created, as I told you in the last previous last week's class, that there will be a unique session ID created for each session, as well as this creation time, which is a long integer. It's nothing but it is milliseconds since 1st January 1970. And this session it is saying false because is new is false over here. Now this is the so this is how sessions are maintained in JSP. The same way it is maintained in, or it is handled in servlets. Now we are actually coming to the end of this class. What is the time now? Okay, 11:20, almost 11:20. Now we have completed the theoretical part of Java servlets as well as theoretical part of JSP. Now I told you in the last week, somebody also asked me how to create this and how to practically know the sessions, as well as the attributes part and servlets, how it is handled. So what I said there, that we will cover up this after covering the JSP, because JSP also has, even in cookies, somebody asked that how we can add cookies, or what is the difference, how cookies work. So what I told that time was because these cookies sessions as well as the other request responses there in the JSP. So once we complete JSP, we'll come back and write the programs. So this was all theoretical part. Now in tomorrow's class, we will take up the practically, we will try to see how to write these programs and how to use these methods, as well as practically we will see how session works, how a cookie is created, and how to retrieve that created cookie. Is this fine? So any doubts, or because we still have some 8 to 9 minutes, any doubts regarding this session? You can just ask me before we end this class.